Good evening. My name's Gavin Yeatts. I'm from the Fort Lauderdale Corps. My story starts back in a little town, Venice, Florida. And when I was young, I consider myself to be what I call a thrower. And when I got mad or upset, I would pick up the nearest thing and I'd throw it. And there was one time, my brother and I were in the living room. My brother really liked fish. So he had fish aquariums. I was into like Legos, and there were these little Lego pieces. They were little Lego men. And my brother said something to me, and I picked that Lego piece up, and I threw it across the room at him, and it missed him and went right through his fish tank. And all that water just bubbled right out, and all the fish fell one by one out of the fish tank. And then there's another time. We had this big, long hallway, and my room was at one end, and his room was at the other. And I loved fudge pops. I used to always get in the freezer and get them. And I had just gotten a fresh fudge pop. And he was at the other end of that hallway, and he said something to me, and I threw that fudge pop at him, and it missed him. He was like a ninja. He ducked straight down, went right over his head, and it smacked up against the wall, and just ran straight down it. But I tell you that story because those are behaviors of children. But as I got older, unfortunately, a lot of those behaviors just continued with me into my adult years. And drugs and alcohol came into play, and I went down a very, very dark road. And at the end of that dark road, my brother was also there for me. And he was there for me to pray. And at that moment, you know, he was preaching on you can't bargain with God. And that's what I was doing. God, you get me out of this, and I'll do this, or you get me out of this and I'll stop doing this. And that's exactly what his message was on, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I got that uncontrollable cry that you have no control over. And they did the altar call, and my mom's sitting next to me, and she goes, Gavin, you know, if you need to pray, now's probably a good time to do it. And I went and I asked my brother to pray with me, and I couldn't even pray at that time. He knelt down and he said just a short prayer with me. So I wound up at the Adult Rehabilitation Center, and at the Adult Rehabilitation Center is where my life changed. It's where Jesus came into my life and completely transformed my life into something that I never would have expected. I expected my life to be good, and God just created it to a whole nother level. But I first felt my calling when I was working at the thrift store for the Salvation Army, and it started as a thought. And the thought was there, and it kind of came into my mind. But it was a thought that I was able to dismiss, you know, or just push in the back of my head. And that's what I did. And I kept pushing it back and pushing it back, ignoring it. But it got stronger as my relationship with God got stronger, as my commitments grew at the core. That thought became stronger and stronger and stronger, and it started to move to my heart. And my life became, I wouldn't say miserable, but it became a little bit tougher, until I finally accepted that calling for what it was. And I got down on my knees and I said, God, if this is the call that you've placed on my life, then that's the direction that I'll go. And I really have no idea what direction I'm going. All I know is I love Jesus and I love people. And Jesus has set a path before me. And I know I'm in it because I feel comfort and I feel peace. Thank you guys for listening.